What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Hogwarts Legacy yet again, and I want to make this kind of the sequel, the spiritual sequel of the last video that I made, where we talked about classes, we talked about how learning could work, and I talked myself into day-night cycles. I talked myself into a schedule. We've talked about seasons before, like outside weather changes, stuff like that. We've talked about that. We'll bring that into this video as well. We'll kind of re-talk about it and go into that. But I think this is a logical next step. Okay, now, like I said in that video, well, hopefully, number one, I talk myself into more topics here. I love doing that. But number two, if there's anything you guys want me to talk about, definitely let me know in the comments below. Make sure while you're at it, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, podcastnow15 is my Twitter handle. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Okay, so again, we talked about classes. We talked about how learning could work if that's kind of sectioned into skill trees and attributes and stuff like that. Well, during that video, right, which I'll leave a link for that at the end of this one so you could check it out if you missed it, I talked myself into, all right, well, if you are, if it's like mandatory, like semi-mandatory that you go to classes. So if I have 3 classes, and that's like a very low end. We talked about, right, how many classes would be acceptable. But if you have so many classes, and it's like a bully kind of situation, or it's even, I guess, persona, but not necessarily, but you didn't have to go to the classes. Like, obviously you should. You'll get in trouble if you don't, and we don't really know what would happen. But if you need to go to the classes, they need to be at specific times. And if they're at specific times, that does mean there's an internal clock in the game. There's a schedule in the game. And that is and again, I talked myself into that last video, and that is very, very exciting to think about because it doesn't have to do just with classes. Obviously, it has to do with everything. So, I do want to bring in seasons really fast. Again, we talked about that before. I do like the idea. Now, I know some people said that they don't like the idea. They don't think it's going to be, they don't think it would be a good thing. They don't want it. They don't think it'll happen. That's totally cool. We can disagree. I know isn't there like a mobile game for Hogwarts or for Harry Potter or something where there is actually seasons in the game? I mean, again, it kind of just comes from me. Like, you watch the movies, you read the books, and they have a lot of fun in different seasons. Like, obviously, it snows quite a bit there, right? And you're able to do a lot of snow activities, right? Even like in the summer or in the fall. Just being able to see things change from the outside of Hogwarts, I think would be kind of a cool thing. So again, you can let me know what you guys think about the seasons. We've already did a whole video on that. But the day-night cycle, or even like the time in general. Now, why do I say day-night cycle? Well, if there's a clock, that means eventually it becomes nighttime, and that means eventually it becomes daytime. And again, a thing with the wizarding world, or being at Hogwarts, and we talked about this, right? Yes, there's going to be dangers in Hogwarts. Like there's going to be like that main villain thread. There'll be like the main story plot. You'll be able to be good, bad, all that kind of stuff. You'll have relationships, but like a big part of it, and the relationships are a part of it, is being a student. Being a student in Hogwarts, right? Going to the classes. But what does that also mean? Well, it means you have a common room. You have your own, sleeping area. You can sneak out, maybe, right? Like there's the Forbidden Forest. You can go maybe outside the grounds of Hogwarts. You can just go exploring the school at night, which would be probably a negative thing. It would probably get you in trouble. And maybe there's like security, like just people patrolling the hallways, right? I think that would be and again, it kind of just adds to what Hogwarts is. It kind of adds to, and I would say, remember I've always talked about the livable open world. Like you feel like things are constantly moving. This is a really, and I don't, to be honest with you, beyond like a week or two ago, I didn't really even consider this. And once I started thinking about it, I was like, oh, holy dear God, I'm onto something, right? But when you think about a livable open world, this is a really big aspect of it, where if you do have time moving, well, that means the entire world is moving with it, right? You have classes that are starting, you have classes that are ending. Now, again, you can go to those classes or you could skip them. And if you're skipping them, they're still happening and time is still moving and things are still happening because you'll probably have to hide from teachers. You obviously can't get caught because you're supposed to be in class, right? All of this different stuff. Things are always happening. Classes get let out. Everybody's moving around. Maybe there's activities you can do. And maybe, I saw some people talking about Quidditch again. Maybe there's only certain times you can do these things. Like, hey, Quidditch practice is between this time and this time in a day. Now, again, some of that stuff is going more into like Sims territory of literally schedules and blocking things off and opening things up only for certain times. Again, I do want to make this clear. I obviously, this is probably halfway through the video. I am not expecting all of this stuff in the game. I keep saying it. I think I'm the only one who says it. I'm one of the only people who talks about this game anyway, but I feel like I'm one of the only ones who say it. Don't expect everything we've talked about in all these videos to happen, right? I really think that's getting our expectations way too high. They're fun to talk about. I think some things in some of these videos will end up happening, but I do not expect all of them. That's just way too big of a game. Some things are just borderline other games that we're kind of talking about. But again, for something like this, I really do think it's possible. Like, specifically talking about the classes, because we have to kind of connect it, I guess, to make it as realistic as we can, to make it something that, like, okay, it's not just Alex coming up with literally random things. We have to connect it to what we know, and we talked about it last time, right? The trailer puts a big emphasis on classes, so we know going to do potions, defense against the dark arts, all this stuff. We know that those are important, all right? So if they are important in the trailer, if they're important in the game, you imagine you can go or you cannot go. Now, maybe you have to go. Maybe it's literally a cutscene where you do have to go. Again, we've talked about that, though, right? That kind of limits, because then it's like a pre-rendered cutscene. You can only do so much. It would obviously get repetitive if you did that every day. So clearly, you don't go to school like every single day. Like it's and it's that would be a different kind of game, and we can't really predict that right now, right? But if you can go or if you can't go to classes, to me that means there's a time. There's literally an internal clock in the game in which you can do different stuff at different times. Which means again, there is a day-night cycle because you'd be able to go to sleep, you'd be able to wake up. That would be cool, even for like again, small details are important. Even like the Great Hall, like in the morning, if you're in the morning time of this game, it'll be breakfast foods. If you go there at night, it'll be dinner food. Like those, again, small things. Now maybe they're so small that they're kind of like pointless and they won't do them. That's definitely possible, but I think they're really cool. I don't think it would be the most difficult thing in the world to do that, right? It's something that we talked about day-night cycles before, actually for Gotham Knights. If any of you guys have watched my Gotham Knights stuff, early on, before we even knew what that game was, we did talk about day-night cycles. Now, what kind of sucks, and I want to bring this up only because, obviously, things can break apart very quickly in this kind of gaming world, right? For Gotham Knights, it seemed possible that we could get a day-night cycle. Turns out, from what we even know about Warner Bros. Montreal, there is none. It's only night. During the day, they're kind of like, again, kind of like pre-rendered cutscenes that are already done, and you go to the Belfry, and you can choose which character to play as. You can, like, equip gear and skills, and then when you go to fight crime, it literally switches you to nighttime. So you can see it's day outside, like, your window, but you can't actually go around Gotham during the day. Now, does it make sense to go around Gotham during the day when you're these four characters? No. If you were like Bruce Wayne, maybe it would, right? Because you'd be able to use him as a daytime character, okay? So I get it. Like, it's not the exact same example, but it is important to note that that is what's going on at a different Warner Bros. Team. However, a thing that's important is, yes, they are very different games. Yes, again, it doesn't really make sense, all that much sense, to be able to explore Gotham during the day as these four Gotham Knights, right? For Hogwarts Legacy, it's very important. During the day, a lot of stuff could happen. Now, you could do the reverse. You could say, well, it's not so important that we have to do things at night, okay? That's kind of the point here, right? Where it could be reversed, where it's like, well, yeah, obviously, during the day, everything's going to happen. At night, things can happen. Just like in Gotham Knights, things could happen during the day. Things could happen during the night at Hogwarts Legacy, but they don't have to show it to you. It doesn't have to be a thing that you experience, right? This is definitely something that I want. I talk about a lot of different, aspects of the game, a lot of different possibilities, and some things I am very, secure about, or, I just know I'm okay with that if they don't happen. You know what I mean? I've talked about a lot of things where it's like, if it doesn't happen, it's fine. You know what I mean? I want it to happen. It'll be, I guess, mildly, I wouldn't say disappointing, because, again, we're kind of willing these things into existence, and then to say, oh, if they don't do it, they're disappointing us. That's kind of harsh, I mean, depending on what the thing is. If it's like an obvious thing that should be in the game and it's not, that's obviously, you can call that disappointing, right? But for something like this, I feel like it makes all the sense in the world. I feel like having a day-night cycle, having different times to be able to do different things in this game make a lot of sense. And if it's not in the game, I just feel like, again, it would be another sign that it's not as dynamic, or not, because I would say big, but dynamic I think is a better word. It's not as dynamic of a livable world as I want it to be, okay, or as I would hope it would be, right? So let me know, guys, in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think they'll have a day-night cycle? What do you think you can do during different times of the day or at night? What do you think you guys can do at night in Hogwarts Legacy? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. Again, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, podcastnow15 is my Twitter handle. Leave any more suggestions in the comments if you guys want me to do different kinds of videos for Hogwarts Legacy. You guys know I do a new video every 4 or 5 days on this game, and I hope to see you guys there.